Hi, everybody. So Whit and I are here doing a
Woohoo.
movie show.
All
And I
right.
actually I got a picture of it, Whit. So
Oh,
here's the
perfect.
movie we're doing.
Da-da-da.
Starman. Ta-da!
Beautiful.
Yes. So we're gonna talk about all the disclosure that was in there. And there was a lot.
Mhm.
So, and one of them we have to spell out the C one.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what was your first impression of this movie?
The first impression, overall, it's so funny because I had never seen it before. And I've seen a lot of different types of movies similar to this, but I was like, why have I not seen this one before? So I'm so glad you suggested it. Um,
I think it was in the comments. So thank you
oh,
guys. Yeah.
so yeah, whoever suggested it, that's amazing.
Hmm.
I so appreciate it. My overall is like I don't know if I even have words for it. Like there's so much in there. I don't know if it's like a slightly under 2 hours, but there's so much in there. And then also some like subtle kind of like hints just in general about like what it could be like for an ET to like embody like a human, if
Yeah.
they come from a different density and what that potentially could possibly feel like. So it's just I had fun with it. It was also just
I
a
did
fun
too.
movie to watch.
It was a really good movie to watch. It was like there was so much in the first 5 minutes. Like I was
Mm.
shocked by that. I didn't remember that. Um, so what I thought was crazy is they sent Voyager out, and that's the first thing you see is that little space thing.
Yep.
And it landed on Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, okay, Saturn's in this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and crashed, and then he crashes and he has the gold record,
Yep.
and it had all the languages on it, and it basically was like greetings,
Yeah.
you know, and so he was running around saying greetings all the time.
And just
It was so
regurgitating
funny,
what
and
that record
nobody
said.
got it. Everybody's like, what?
What
What?
do you what? Yeah.
So obviously their idea of how it was going to work when an ET came was like totally, it didn't really work for the general population. Like nobody understood that that was an ET.
Mm-mm.
Um, and then the DNA in the hair. So he gets into the cabin, and you guys, you'll want to watch the movie, I think.
Yeah. If you haven't
Yeah.
watched it, you're like, what?
Yeah. But he goes in, and there's hair in an album, and somebody has passed away, and he gets a hold of that DNA and becomes that person,
Mm.
which is a CLONE. And
Yep.
that being doesn't last very long either.
Oh, like 3 days, something
Three
like
or
that.
4 days. Yeah, it
Yeah.
wasn't very long. Um, and he's with this lady. She's in this cabin, and she's like totally flipped out. I
Mm-hmm.
can't imagine, all of a sudden
That
you're,
was Yes, that was one of the things that I was actually thinking about, and I was drawing parallels to like anytime that we are taking in new information that's like too much for our psyche or our vessel to like handle, we then tell ourselves like, oh, that's not real, or like whatever, we forget. And that's exactly how she did it. She thought it was a dream because she
right.
passed out. She like sees him, interacts with him, she passes out. And then when she comes to, she's like, that was a weird dream. And I was like, how many times have we done that when we've
Yeah,
seen things and we're just like, oh, that was weird, or we just don't remember? So I thought that was super interesting.
that is really interesting
Yeah.
Because maybe we've seen a lot of stuff that we just assume is a dream.
That's what I'm thinking, actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ooh, that's a good point.
Mhm.
Um, and then there was the deer. So they go
Yeah.
out on the road because he's supposed to have landed in a certain spot. And of course, the military messed that up. So he ends up in the wrong area and has to get back so he doesn't pass away on the planet. Um, so it's like this crazy drive. And for a long time, she's kidnapped, she says,
Yeah.
and she's freaked out. Um, but he brings the deer back to life, and
Mhm.
that becomes like a huge drama. So, but ETs, I'm sure, think that that's like, what are they doing hurting this animal?
That's
It
what
has, yeah,
I thought that was so interesting about like in so many ways the way the main character is depicted is like kind of stumbly around and jerky, and like he's trying to learn the language and he's picking up on things really fast. He's like figuring out how to drive, kind of. And yellow means go really fast.
right.
um but in a lot of ways you can see that he's so much farther advanced in just the way that he cares for the deer and like other aspects of like interacting with things. So it's a weird kind of balance in that movie of like he's learning how to be human, but he's also like valuing other living, breathing things more than the humans in that video or in the movie are. So
Yeah. Well, and if you think about it, I mean, this may be how a walk-in feels.
I wrote down walk-in in my notes. I was like, oh, it
Yeah.
could be another like
How,
example.
like, because a lot of the walk-ins are like these higher density beings usually, and they're probably like, oh my God, you know, what is this craziness that's happening here?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can't. And I know that a lot of us have felt that way,
Mm-hmm.
this audience too. Like, what am I doing here? What is
Yes.
going on here? Like, I feel out of place. I know I've had that experience,
Yes.
you know?
Agreed. Agreed. There's been a few
Yeah.
times where I've just been like confused of why things are the way they are, or like not sure what I'm doing and here specifically. Um, and then it comes back to just grounding myself into like, you are here, Whit. Focus on here. Like that's okay. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
whole thing.
And we came in for a reason, and there's so many of us now. Whereas like when the scouts came in, if you follow like Dolores Cannon's work, when the scouts came in, how did they feel? They must have felt so alone and
Oh my
so like,
gosh.
what do we do with this? How did I
Yeah.
end up here? Ugh, I can't imagine.
Uh-uh.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
So, I mean, just being my age and as old as I am and thinking the same things, like, I'm like, oh, I had to wait 50 years for things to start to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a long time.
Well, and we have the internet now to like connect.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the scouts, like, yes, there were more than just one, but they couldn't find each other easily.
No, and they were probably like a needle in a haystack at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're pouring in,
Mm-hmm.
you know. The older souls are pouring in to make sure ascension happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So scout, and if any of the scouts are listening, thank you.
yes, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Scouts and warriors.
Yes, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mhm. Yeah, so good. Um, so what did you think about the way that she defined love?
I didn't write notes on that, but I remember thinking, I was like, oh, that is not my perspective on
Mm-mm.
how I define love. It
No.
felt the way she was describing it, if I remember, I didn't write it down word for word, but if I remember, it felt kind of like codependent,
Mhm.
and that's not how I view it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, now that we know how things like, how we're supposed to take care of ourselves,
Mhm.
I was like, oh, oops, no. And it
Yeah,
was basically like, we love somebody else more than we love ourselves.
that's
So that
right. That's
was
what he
part of
said.
programming. They were programming people
Yep.
with that line. I
And there
was
was
like,
a lot of
yeah.
that message going on,
Hmm.
not just in that movie, but just a lot of movies, a lot of songs, a lot of, yeah.
Everywhere. Um, and it was funny when they were eating. And he wanted to eat dessert first.
Yes. She's like, no, you eat this and then you eat. Why? Well, it's just how it goes.
Yeah. And that I was like, oh, there's a program.
Uh-huh.
Hmm. So that was interesting too. And then his balls of quantum energy.
Yes. Did he
So
have 7?
I think so.
I wrote down 7 and then I was like, I don't know what the significance of 7 is.
It's a divine number.
Oh, that's my
Yeah.
life path number. If people are
Oh,
into life paths, but 7 is
that's
mine.
cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool. Yeah. So it's a divine number, and most people will say that's God's number.
Hmm.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
and he could do amazing things with those little
Y-
quantum steel. That's what they look like, is little balls of steel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
So,
used, did he use all of them and then gave her one at the end, right? For
yeah.
the baby.
Yeah. So the hybrid baby,
Uh-huh.
yeah, and she wasn't able to have children, so he fixed her body. He saved her life. So, yeah, I mean, it really shows you what the ETs are capable of. Um, and the higher densities are capable of, really, like, so we are capable of that. We just haven't figured it out yet.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. That was the coolest part. Watching these movies now with like more of an understanding is
Mhm.
like, oh, I can do that. Or like, I will be doing that. Or you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
instead of just like, oh, wow, that's a cool story or that's a cool thing over there removed from me. I'm now looking at it as like, oh, I can't wait to play with this and be able to do this. That's awesome.
Yeah, we know it's an actual possibility for the future, which is really
Mhm.
cool. Something else was really cool. Oh, yeah, the hormones. So after they created the baby
Yes.
and he's standing in the doorway, it's like he was in some kind of zone. Like I was like,
Mhm.
oh wow. So the ETs, like the emotion that goes on inside of humanity is so extreme in comparison,
Mhm.
and we were created for that because it makes it easier for us to create, but
Mhm.
then it's also been used against us.
Yes.
Yeah. But I was like,
Yeah.
wow, look at his face.
Uh-huh. Well, that was like one of the things when now I think his name was Mark, the kind of like nerdy guy that ends up helping at the end.
Oh, yeah, yeah, the scientist.
And he like asked, like, why here? Why did you come here? And he's like, um, the ET says, you are a strange species, not like any other. Like that was kind of the line. And it was like, and there are many, many out there, like more than you can imagine. So he says
Yeah.
something along those lines. And I was like, that feels like a like hey.
Yeah, that was a truth bomb.
Yeah.
And then the dissection table that they had laid out,
Yes, with the
you know.
straps and everything. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And he was really like getting close to passing away towards the end, like his body was failing.
Mm-hmm.
And she wanted to go with him, and he's like, no, you wouldn't survive.
Yeah.
So, you know, the human body doesn't, I think now at this point, maybe you could survive on a spaceship, you know? Um, but I think in the past, like without the crystalline system and the heaviness, it would have been too much.
Yep.
And I know some people have been beamed up, you know, they've actually been beamed up. And I don't know if it's just their etheric, mostly their etheric body, but some
Mhm.
people's bodies have actually been beamed up. And I think it's really hard on them.
Yeah.
So there's that. Oh, and
Mhm.
there's only one language.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Mhm. Yeah.
So interesting.
One language, one law, and no war.
Mm-hmm.
So that impressed me. I was like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there is, I mean, in the lower densities, still war. So he was from a higher density, probably at least fifth.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because
Third
when
and fourth are still wild.
he comes in too, he's just that blue light
Yeah.
being.
Oh, he was an orb.
Yeah. Which like huge plot holes. Like, why couldn't he just float over to the crater area in Arizona himself? Like, why does he have to
Oh
get into a
yeah.
I was
Why
like
did
so
he need a body?
yeah,
Like,
I was
I
like,
mean,
he's floating and maybe, I don't know, maybe he just was too much to be in his like light body self on Earth. So he just had to hurry up and jump in. I don't know. They don't go into those details. I was like, wait a minute.
yeah. I mean, that's probably what normally would happen
Yeah.
because a lot of people see orbs all the time.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, I've seen him in people's videos, like a little orb will go bing, you know, right
Yes.
across. Yeah. Um,
I've done some like TikTok lives where I had one around me a bunch and the people watching me saw it and they're like, hey, it keeps circling your head and everything. I'm like, yeah, say hey.
yeah, yeah. And we are, I mean, mostly our energy field is going to be fairly round. I mean, it's a toroidal field, so it's going to appear to be round pretty much.
Yeah,
Cool.
so cool.
Yeah. So I really liked the movie. I thought it was great. We have a couple of things that we've written down, but like if you have a movie that you think is going to be the movie for
Mhm.
us to talk about, let us know.
Yes.
Yeah, because
And with this movie in particular, too, or if there are other things that you picked up on that we didn't,
oh yeah,
I want to hear about it. Because
yeah,
there's just so much in there. And so like I was taking notes, but then there a lot of times I found myself just like sucked in and then I forgot to take notes.
yeah. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
I really like this one and Starman. Um, Jupiter Rising is a really good movie. We could maybe review that one, although
Mhm.
it's a little more dark.
Sure, sure.
I'd like to do some of the newer ones if you guys can think of them,
Yes.
because they're actually white hat movies.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be really fun.
That would be cool.
Yeah, but like Moonfall was definitely white hat. You know, I'm like, oh my God, look at all that stuff
Yeah.
they put in there. That's amazing. But the movie itself was quite bad. Um,
I haven't seen it yet.
oh, definitely you won't get too sucked in. Like you'll be able to take your notes. But the information is fantastic.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. I was like, wow, look at all that they put in there. And every single thing was stuff that I had said, except for the way that the moon was powered.
Mm,
And I get it was not like a small planet, it was a crystal,
sure.
like a crystal drive. But they say that in Star Trek.
Okay.
Star Trek would be good too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I love this stuff. Like I could watch sci-fi all day long, pretty much.
Mm,
But let us know. Let us know what you're interested in. And, you know, maybe we are coming up with some things and you could come up with more information about it. And this is kind of stuff that's going to spark conversations.
yes. That's what I mean, we said this kind of in the last video we did too, but that's what's so fun about bringing movies and music and stuff into it, because you just never know what it's going to spark.
Yeah.
Never
You don't
know.
know.
There might be your own memories or your own knowings or whatever it is. Like all of a sudden you're like, oh, that makes sense now.
Yeah.
So
Think about that song, The Dawning of the Age of Aquarius.
yes.
And the hippies were singing it. And it was so like they knew what was coming.
Uh-huh.
Like they knew it. And some of the Pink Floyd stuff, and you know, some of them were really telling you a lot. And I
Yep.
think all of them were telling you something, but some of them were telling you the good stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure. Like decades before. Yeah.
Yeah. And that sticks with you. Like you remember in your subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
very fun. Thank
Yeah.
you, Whit.
Yes, thank you. It's
Yeah,
always so
this is a
fun.
lot of fun. So, and thank you guys for suggesting this movie. We really do appreciate it. Yeah.
So good.
Bye.